The automatic doors slide open and Marcus enters the terminal, the morning sun catching the gold of his watch. He stands in line, boarding pass creased in his hand from the pressure of his grip. Heather's eyes find him, her smile faltering. For a moment. She straightens her blouse, adjusts her name tag, and approaches with a brisk step. "Good morning. May I verify your ticket, sir?" Marcus hands her the pass, his voice calm and even. "Of course." The scanner beeps, but Heather lingers, reading the name and seat twice. A mother behind Marcus pulls her child closer. A businessman lowers his newspaper to watch. Heather's thumb taps the ticket, a nervous rhythm betraying her unease. She glances at Marcus's carry-on. "Is this your only bag?" Marcus nods. "Yes." She forces a laugh, trying to sound casual. First class can be confusing, lots of rules. Marcus meets her gaze, unblinking. "I've flown before." The line slows. A toddler babbles, breaking the tension. Heather's colleague glances over, then quickly busies herself with paperwork. Marcus's phone vibrates. A calendar alert flashes. Flight crew briefing, 9:00 a.m. He silences it, but Heather notices the reminder, her brow furrowing. Her confidence wavers, the well-practiced script of polite suspicion and gentle authority slipping under the weight of Marcus's steady calm. She returns the ticket, her fingers brushing his. "Enjoy your flight, Mr. Bell." Marcus nods, a faint smile on his lips. "Thank you." He moves forward, his posture unshaken. Heather watches him go, her pen trembling as she scribbles in her logbook. The businessman behind Marcus mutters, "Took long enough." The gate resumes its usual routine, but the air is changed, charged with a truth Heather cannot name. Marcus's quiet dignity lingers, a silent challenge to the order she's always known. Before the story continues, please let us know from where you are watching this video. Write your city or country in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit like if you believe in stories that challenge injustice. Your engagement gives power to voices that need to be heard. Heather stands at the gate, her uniform pressed and badge gleaming. Marcus waits nearby, his suit tailored, shoes polished. The line between them is invisible but real, drawn by glances and posture. Heather's voice is careful, just above a whisper as she checks another ticket. "Next, please." Marcus steps forward, his presence steady. She studies him, eyes flicking from his suit to his face. "First class?" she asks, the words edged with disbelief. "Yes," Marcus replies, his tone unwavering. Passengers behind them shuffle, some watching, others pretending to focus on their phones. A teenager in a hoodie glances at Marcus, then at Heather, curiosity in his eyes. Heather's hand hovers over the scanner, her grip tight. She clears her throat, trying to regain composure. "You know, sometimes there's an upgrade line over there." Marcus shakes his head, a quiet confidence in his stance. "This is my seat." The tension is thick, unspoken but felt by everyone nearby. An older woman in a floral dress leans in, whispering to her husband, who nods without looking up. The uniforms, Heather's crisp attire, Marcus's impeccable suit become symbols, each representing a different kind of authority and expectation. Heather glances at her colleague, who offers a small, uncertain shrug before turning away. The divide is more than fabric. It's in every gesture, every pause. Marcus stands his ground, refusing to be moved by doubt. Heather's professionalism falters, her confidence shaken by his calm. The line moves slowly, the air heavy with things left unsaid. Marcus finally passes through, his dignity intact. Heather watches him go, her certainty chipped away. The uniforms remain, but the meaning has shifted. The gate, once a place of routine, now feels like a stage for something neither of them can control. Heather's hand hovers over the scanner as Marcus presents his boarding pass. The device in her grip feels heavier than usual, the moment stretching out as she double-checks the name and seat number. "Marcus Bell, first class," she reads, voice flat. Marcus meets her gaze, his expression unreadable. The scanner beeps, but Heather doesn't move right away. Around them, travelers shift their weight, a quiet tension settling over the line. A man in a blue jacket sighs, glancing at his watch. A woman with a stroller rocks her baby, eyes flicking between Heather and Marcus. Heather's jaw tightens. She flips the ticket as if searching for a flaw. "Traveling alone?" she asks, her tone clipped. "Yes," Marcus replies, his answer simple, firm. The scanner's light blinks, waiting. Heather finally waves him through, her hand shaking just slightly. Marcus steps forward, his movements measured, refusing to rush. A young gate agent nearby watches the exchange, lips pressed together. He fidgets with his lanyard, unsure whether to intervene or stay silent. Heather catches his eye, and he looks away, pretending to check his tablet. The act of scanning a ticket becomes a quiet test, a ritual that carries more weight than it should. Marcus walks past, his posture unbroken. Heather exhales, shoulders dropping as she turns to the next passenger. The scanner's beep is sharper now, each sound a reminder of the scrutiny she just imposed. The line moves again, but the energy has shifted. Travelers murmur, a few glancing back at Marcus as he walks toward the jet bridge. Heather forces a smile for the next guest, but her confidence is shaken. The simple act of checking a ticket has exposed more than she intended. The routine is unchanged, but the meaning behind it lingers, heavy and unresolved. Whispers ripple through the line. As Marcus stands firm, passengers glance away, some uncomfortable, others curious. A child tugs at his mother's sleeve, eyes wide with unasked questions. The mother's lips press tight, unable to answer. The air is thick with unspoken tension, a collective unease that settles like dust. Nearby, a businessman shifts in his seat, his gaze flickering between Marcus and Heather. A teenager leans forward, whispering to a friend, their voices low but charged. Heather watches, her expression guarded, aware of the crowd's shifting mood. The line moves slowly, each step heavy with the weight of silent judgment. Marcus's calm contrasts with the murmurs, his dignity a quiet defiance. The terminal's hum fades into the background, replaced by the subtle sounds of whispered doubts and averted eyes. The scene captures the lingering presence of bias, the way it weaves through shared spaces, unseen but deeply felt. The crowd's reaction is a mirror to the systemic barriers Marcus faces, a reminder that change is slow and often met with resistance. Yet, in the midst of the whispers, there is a flicker of solidarity, a nod, a glance, a quiet acknowledgement that the old order is being questioned. The tension is palpable, the moment suspended between past and future, a silent reckoning unfolding in the light of day. Marcus steps forward, handing Heather his ticket with a steady hand. She hesitates, her fingers brushing his as she takes it. For a moment their eyes lock hers uncertain, his unwavering. Marcus offers a small, knowing smile, the kind that unsettles more than any argument. Heather's composure falters, her voice catching as she says, "Thank you, Mr. Bell." He nods, the gesture quiet but loaded with meaning. The line behind him grows restless, a few passengers exchanging glances, sensing the shift. Heather's colleague looks over, concerned, flickering across her face, but says nothing. Marcus moves on, his stride calm, dignity intact. Heather stands frozen, ticket in hand, replaying the exchange in her mind. The balance between them has changed, if only slightly. She glances at the next passenger, her confidence shaken, her routine disrupted. The air feels different now, charged with the promise of something about to break. Marcus disappears down the jet bridge, his presence lingering like a challenge. The old order feels fragile, the usual certainty replaced by a quiet sense of reckoning. Passengers watch Heather, waiting for her to recover. She forces a smile, but it doesn't reach her eyes. The moment hangs, heavy and unresolved. Marcus's smile remains, a silent warning that the story isn't finished. The power has shifted, not with a confrontation, but with restraint, a storm gathering just beneath the surface. The gate returns to motion, but nothing is quite the same. The roles have changed, and everyone feels it, even if no one dares to say it out loud. Marcus sits by the window, the hum of the terminal fading as a memory surfaces. He's 10 again, standing in front of the hallway mirror while his mother straightens his tie. Her hands are gentle, her eyes serious. Let your work speak, Marcus. Don't give them a reason to doubt. He nods, not fully understanding, but sensing the weight behind her words. She smooths his collar, then kneels to meet his gaze. People will look at you and expect less. You don't have to prove them wrong with noise, just show them who you are. He swallows the knot in his throat, matching the one in his tie. Back in the present, Marcus touches his collar, adjusting it as if his mother's hands are still there. The lesson is stitched into every thread of his suit, every calm response he gives. He watches the gate agent, her posture rigid, her tone clipped. The memory anchors him, gives him patience. A young boy across the aisle stares, curiosity in his eyes. Marcus offers a small smile, remembering how it felt to be that age, to want answers no one would give. His phone buzzes, snapping him back to the present. He glances at the screen, then slips it into his pocket. The memory lingers, a quiet shield against the scrutiny he faces. He breathes deeply, steadying himself for what comes next. The world hasn't changed as much as he'd hoped, but his mother's advice holds. Don't give them a reason. Let your work speak. Marcus straightens his jacket, stands, and moves toward the jet bridge, carrying both the lesson and the weight of expectation with him. Heather sits in the staff room, flipping through her training manual, the pages stiff from lack of use. Her finger lands on a highlighted section. Verify elite status for non-standard passengers. She reads it twice, the words echoing in her mind. She remembers her supervisor's voice during orientation, low and careful. Be extra thorough with anyone who stands out. Heather glances around. A new hire scrolls through his phone, oblivious, while another attendant organizes snack trays, humming quietly. She turns another page, eyes catching on phrases like unusual behavior and additional screening recommended. The language is polite, almost clinical, but the message is clear. Heather thinks back to the gate, to the way she hesitated with Marcus's ticket. Her chest tightens. She wonders how many times she's followed these instructions without question, how many people she's made feel unwelcome without ever raising her voice. A veteran attendant enters, dropping her bag with a thud. Still memorizing the handbook? She jokes, her tone light, but her eyes sharp. Heather forces a laugh, closing the manual. Just making sure I don't miss anything. The older woman nods, her approval silent but unmistakable. Heather looks down at the manual, its margins filled with notes from past trainings. She thinks about the gate, about Marcus's calm, about the small crack in her certainty. The manual feels heavier now, the words less like guidance and more like a warning. She slides it into her bag, her hands unsteady. The room is quiet except for the distant sound of a boarding call. Heather stands, smoothing her skirt, the weight of the manual pressing against her side as she heads back to the gate, unsure if she's following rules or just hiding behind them. Janelle sits in the waiting area, her blazer crisp, phone balanced on her knee. She watches the gate, eyes narrowing as Heather questions Marcus. A memory surfaces. She's on a flight years ago, ticket in hand, standing in the aisle while a flight attendant frowns at her seat number. "Are you sure this is your seat?" the attendant asks, voice polite but cold. Janelle smiles, holding out her ticket. "Yes, 2A. The attendant checks it, then glances at a colleague who shrugs. Passengers watch, some curious, others indifferent. Janelle feels the heat rise in her cheeks, but she keeps her voice steady. "Is there a problem?" The attendant shakes her head, returning the ticket. "No, just double-checking." Janelle sits, her dignity bruised, but her posture unbroken. Back in the present, Janelle's phone buzzes. She types a quick message to a friend. They never learn. She glances at Marcus, catching his eye for a moment. She offers a small nod, a silent show of solidarity. He nods back, the connection brief but meaningful. A young woman nearby notices the exchange, her brow furrowing. She leans toward her partner. "Why do they always make it harder?" The partner shrugs, uncomfortable. Janelle's memory lingers, the sting of that old humiliation mixing with the frustration of watching it happen again. She adjusts her blazer, straightens her shoulders, and decides she won't look away. Not this time. The gate feels colder, the routine more exposed. Janelle watches as Marcus boards, her resolve hardening. She sends another message. "We keep showing up. That's how we win." The words settle, a quiet promise to herself and to everyone who's ever been told, without words, that they don't belong. Mr. O'Connor sits near the window, swirling the ice in his cup of ginger ale. His gaze drifts to the gate, where Marcus stands tall and Heather's posture is rigid. He mutters under his breath, "Things were clearer back then." The woman beside him, his daughter, glances over. "Dad, let it go." He ignores her, eyes fixed on the scene unfolding. He remembers the old airport, the colored and white signs, the separate waiting rooms. "No confusion back then," he says, voice low. His daughter shifts, uncomfortable. "It wasn't better, Dad, just different." He frowns, the memory stubborn. "At least you knew where you stood." A young man in a bright jacket sits nearby, earbuds in, oblivious to the tension. Mr. O'Connor watches Marcus hand over his ticket, sees the hesitation in Heather's face. He feels a pang of guilt, though he would never admit it. The world has changed, but the unease lingers, a shadow that never quite lifts. His daughter squeezes his hand, her grip gentle but firm. "Times change, Dad. We have to change with them." Mr. O'Connor sighs, the sound heavy. He looks at Marcus, then away, the past and present colliding in his mind. He finishes his drink, the ice clinking in the empty cup. The terminal feels colder, the lines between people less visible but just as real. Mr. O'Connor leans back, closing his eyes for a moment. The world moves on, but the lessons of simpler times haunt him, a reminder that clarity often comes at someone else's expense. Luis stands at the gate podium, fingers drumming on the keyboard as he scans boarding passes. His jaw is set, eyes darting from the screen to the line. He remembers last month, a black family, 2 kids, a booking error that sent them to another flight. His supervisor's words echo in his mind, "Don't make exceptions, just follow the checklist." Luis swallows, feeling the old tension creep in. Heather approaches, her steps brisk. "Keep an eye on 1A, she murmurs, barely meeting his gaze. Luis nods, but inside he hesitates. He watches Marcus step forward, posture straight, face unreadable. Luis wants to offer a smile, something small, but the rules feel like a wall. Between them, a woman in line fumbles with her bag, dropping her boarding pass. Luis bends to pick it up, handing it back with a polite nod. She thanks him, relief in her eyes. He glances at Marcus, who waits patiently, not demanding attention, not making a scene. Luis's hand hovers over the Verify button. He hesitates, then presses it, the screen flashing green. Heather stands nearby, arms folded, watching. Luis feels her expectation, the pressure to do things by the book. He clears his throat, forcing a smile as Marcus passes through. "Have a good flight, sir." Marcus nods, his acknowledgement quiet but genuine. Luis exhales, tension easing for a moment. He knows he's complicit, even when he tries to be kind. The gate feels smaller, the rules heavier. As the line moves on, he wonders if compassion will ever outweigh caution, or if the checklist will always win. A child waves at him, and Luis waves back, the gesture small but sincere. For now, it's all he can give. Heather stands at the entrance to first class, arms crossed tighter than usual. She watches Marcus settle into seat 1A, his movements unhurried, his presence commanding. Her scarf feels too tight around her neck, a habit from her earliest days on the job. She fidgets with it, pulling it loose, then glances at her notepad. The words, "unusual behavior," half-written and quickly scratched out. A colleague passes by, balancing a stack of service trays. "Everything okay?" he asks, voice low. Heather forces a nod, not trusting herself to speak. The hum of the cabin seems louder, every small sound amplified by her nerves. She tries to focus on her checklist but finds herself glancing at Marcus again and again. He opens a book, reading with an ease that unsettles her. A passenger across the aisle notices her staring and raises an eyebrow, then returns to his magazine. Heather looks away, cheeks burning. She writes a note, then immediately tears it out, crumpling the paper in her fist. Her supervisor's footsteps echo down the aisle. Heather straightens, pasting on a professional smile. "All set up front?" the supervisor asks. Heather nods, voice thin. "Yes, just getting organized." The supervisor glances at Marcus, then at Heather, reading the tension but saying nothing. Heather's confidence slips further as she returns to her station. She watches Marcus from the corner of her eye, his calm a silent challenge. The seat feels like a spotlight, exposing every doubt she tries to hide. The line between authority and anxiety blurs, leaving her unsteady. She pulls her scarf loose again, the fabric suddenly suffocating. The cabin buzzes with routine, but Heather feels every glance, every pause, as if the whole section is waiting for her to make a mistake. She busies herself with the service cart, but her attention never leaves seat 1A. Marcus settles into his seat, the noise of the plane fading as he unlocks his phone. He scrolls through his messages, thumb pausing over Naomi's name. He types, stops, then tries again. Same story, different airport. He waits, watching the dots blink. Naomi replies with a single word, "Grace." He exhales, shoulders dropping, the tension easing just a little. That word is a reminder of every talk they've had about patience, about not letting the world's suspicion turn into his own. He glances out the window, sunlight bouncing off the tarmac. A flight attendant walks by, pausing a moment too long at his row. Marcus meets her eyes and nods politely. She looks away, pretending to check the bins above. He types again, slower now. "It never gets easier, but I'm okay." Naomi's answer comes fast. "You don't have to be. Just come home safe." Across the aisle, a passenger watches Marcus, curiosity flickering in his eyes. Marcus puts his phone away, straightening his tie as the seatbelt sign dings. He closes his eyes, letting Naomi's words settle inside him. Grace, not just patience but dignity, the ability to move through the world without letting it harden him. The flight attendant returns, offering water. "Anything else I can get you, sir?" Her voice is softer now, uncertain. Marcus shakes his head. "No, thank you." She lingers for a second, then walks on, her steps less sure than before. He reopens his phone, scrolling through old photos, Naomi's smile, their daughter's first steps, a family dinner. Each image is a tether, pulling him back to himself. He types one last message. "Love you, see you soon." Naomi's reply, "Always." The plane starts to taxi. Marcus looks out at the runway, the world blurring past. He breathes in, steady and calm, carrying Grace with him as the journey continues. Heather sits at her desk, the soft hum of the terminal fading into the background. Her fingers hover over the keyboard, hesitating before she types the words, "Passenger 1A, status verification requested." The phrase feels clinical, detached, but beneath it lies a weight she cannot ignore. The screen glows with Marcus, Bell's profile, his name, seat number, and photo clear and undeniable. She leans back, eyes flickering to the window where planes taxi and take off. The routine of her job clashes with the unease settling in her chest. This is more than a formality. It is a moment where dignity is measured against suspicion. A colleague passes by, glancing at the screen. He offers a tight smile, a silent acknowledgement of the unspoken rules they both navigate. Heather's hand trembles slightly as she clicks. Submit. Sending the report into the system's vast machinery. The terminal buzzes with life, passengers moving through gates, unaware of the quiet judgment being recorded in a small office. Heather's breath catches as she imagines Marcus receiving this coded message, a reminder that his presence is still questioned. She closes the laptop, the click echoing in the quiet room. The weight of the report lingers, a symbol of the system, grinding on, indifferent to the human stories caught in its gears. Outside, Marcus walks steadily toward the jet bridge, unaware of the report filed behind him. His calm remains unbroken, a quiet defiance against the machinery designed to doubt him. Heather stares at the closed door, the divide between them wider than ever. The report is sent, but the story is far from over. The system churns, but so does the quiet resistance growing with every step Marcus takes. Heather stands near the galley, her eyes following Marcus as he stows his bag overhead. She leans toward a fellow attendant, voice barely above a whisper. "Keep an eye on 1A, Will." "You?" The colleague glances at Marcus, then at Heather, uncertainty flickering across her face. "Is there a problem?" she asks, her tone guarded. Heather shakes her head, forcing a smile. "Just making sure everything's smooth up front." The colleague nods, but her fingers fidget with the edge of a napkin, betraying her discomfort. She turns away, busying herself with arranging cups, avoiding further conversation. Another attendant, passing by, catches the tension and raises an eyebrow but says nothing, choosing instead to adjust the coffee cart and move on. Marcus takes his seat, buckling in with practiced ease. He notices the glances, the way the crew's eyes linger a moment too long before darting away. He keeps his expression neutral, refusing to give them anything to interpret. A passenger nearby senses the shift, pulling his jacket closer and looking out the window. Heather returns to her station, the weight of her own words pressing down. She glances at her colleague, who now avoids her gaze altogether, focusing intently on stacking sugar packets. The unspoken agreement is clear. It's easier to look away, to pretend nothing happened, than to question the routine. The cabin fills with the low hum of conversation, but beneath it runs a current of unease. Heather's authority feels brittle, her confidence chipped by the silent judgment of those around her. The crew moves through their tasks, each one complicit in the quiet, each one choosing comfort over confrontation. Marcus closes his eyes, letting the noise fade. The whispers swirl around him, but he remains steady, anchored by the knowledge that this is not new and that every silent witness is part of the story. Marcus sits upright, adjusting his seatbelt as the cabin settles. A woman across the aisle clutches her purse a little tighter, eyes darting from his face to his suit, then away. A teenage boy 2 rows back lifts his phone, snapping a quick photo before tucking it under his tray. The flash isn't loud, but Marcus notices. He doesn't react. A middle-aged man in the window seat nods at Marcus, a silent gesture of respect, or perhaps apology. Marcus returns the nod, his expression calm but distant. A flight attendant pauses near his row, pretending to check the overhead bins, but her gaze lingers on Marcus for a beat too long. She moves on, her lips pressed in a thin line. The passenger's curiosity hangs in the air, a quiet verdict rendered without words. A young girl whispers to her mother, "Is he famous?" The mother shakes her head, murmuring something Marcus can't hear. The girl stares, wide-eyed, until her mother gently turns her face away. Marcus opens his book, the pages a shield against the scrutiny. He feels the weight of every glance, every sideways look. The plane's engine hums, but the real noise is the silent assessment from every direction. He turns a page, steady hands betraying none of the tension he feels. A man in a sports jacket leans toward his wife. "He's in first class. Didn't expect that." The wife shrugs, not meeting his eyes. The comment floats between them, unchallenged. Marcus reads on, refusing to shrink. The flight attendant returns, offering water. "Would you like anything else, sir?" Her voice is polite, but her hands tremble slightly as she pours. Marcus shakes his head. "No, thank you." She nods, moving away quickly. The judgment, the curiosity, the quiet awe and discomfort, they all swirl around Marcus, but he remains composed, refusing to let their stares define him. A college student in row 7 scrolls through her phone, thumbs flying. She glances up, watching the flight attendant hover near Marcus again. She snaps a photo, careful to catch the tension on Heather's face. She types quickly. Flight attendant questioning black man in first class. Shiro first class while black. She hesitates, then hits post. Within minutes, her notifications light up. Likes, retweets, comments. Someone replies, "This happens all the time." Another shares their own story. The hashtag spreads, a wave rolling through timelines. Screenshots of the post bounce from phone to phone, even reaching a crew member in the back galley. He frowns, reading the words, then looks up at Heather, uncertainty clouding his features. Marcus doesn't notice at first. He's reading, headphones in, blocking out the world. But a passenger across the aisle leans over, voice low. "You're trending online. People are talking." Marcus blinks, surprised, then glances at his phone. The hashtag is everywhere. He scrolls, reading the flood of support and outrage. His jaw tightens, a mix of gratitude and exhaustion settling in. Heather, meanwhile, feels the shift. A colleague shows her the tweet, whispering, "This is about you, isn't it?" Heather's face pales, her hands gripping the drink cart. She forces a smile, but her eyes dart around the cabin, searching for control she no longer has. The mood changes. Passengers whisper, some offering Marcus sympathetic glances, others avoiding eye contact altogether. The story is no longer confined to the cabin. It's gone viral, outpacing any attempt to contain it. The hashtag pulses on screens, a digital chorus demanding justice, refusing to let the moment fade. Marcus sits back, phone in hand, the power of the crowd behind him. The story is out, and for once, the world is watching. The crew lounge is quiet, the hum of the terminal distant. Heather sits alone, phone in hand, scrolling through a flood of notifications. The headline blares, "Yak first class," while black goes viral. Her fingers tremble as she swipes through comments, some sympathetic, others harsh. The weight of exposure presses down, heavier than any uniform she's worn. A colleague passes by, casting a sidelong glance. Heather looks up, eyes meeting averted, gazes. The isolation is palpable, a silent judgment from those who once shared her routine, now strangers in the same space. The air feels colder, the camaraderie fractured. She sets the phone down, the screen's glow fading. The memo from corporate lies unopened on the table. Review sensitivity training and update crew conduct. The words feel hollow, a gesture, too late to mend the fracture, a bandage on a wound that's already bled. Heather's breath catches as she imagines Marcus reading the viral posts, the public's gaze dissecting his every move. The system's slow churn grinds on, but the moment has slipped beyond control, a wildfire sparked by years of quiet injustice. Outside, Marcus stands by the cockpit door, his pilot's stripes catching the light. His calm is unshaken, a quiet defiance against the storm. He watches the terminal bustle, the faces of passengers and crew alike, knowing the truth is no longer hidden. The terminal buzzes with activity, but the undercurrent of change is undeniable. Heather folds the memo, slipping it into her bag. The storm has arrived, and the system must reckon with its own reflection. The door to the lounge closes softly behind her, the echo a reminder that some lessons come too late, but not too late to change. The quiet after the storm is a promise, fragile, but real. Outside, the distant roar of planes taking off blends with the murmur of conversations. Change is no longer whispered. It's a rising tide, unstoppable and necessary. Heather's steps echo down the corridor, each one a quiet surrender to the truth she can no longer deny. Heather adjusts a seatbelt, hands trembling as Marcus's voice fills the cabin. "This is Captain Bell." The PA crackles with authority. Passengers freeze, eyes darting to first class. Heather's clipboard slips, papers scattering. The name she'd questioned now commands the plane, her certainty, crumbling like ash. Heather's breath catches, her fingers tightening on the strap. The cabin falls into a hush, the usual chatter replaced by a heavy pause. Marcus's voice, calm and steady, fills the space with quiet power. "Welcome aboard. I'm Captain Bell. We'll have you home on time," he announces. Heather's eyes flicker to the door, then back to the passengers. A businessman lowers his newspaper, a mother squeezes her child's hand. The weight of the moment settles like a stone. Her hands shake as she pours coffee, the liquid trembling in the cup. A colleague watches, concerned, flickering in her eyes, but says nothing. Marcus walks the aisle, greeting passengers with a nod and a quiet smile. Some return the gesture, others avoid his gaze. Heather can't meet his eyes. The power dynamic has shifted. Marcus's authority is unspoken but absolute. He offers Heather a polite nod, a gesture heavy with meaning. Passengers whisper, a few, offer Marcus quiet words of thanks. The plane feels lighter, as if the truth has opened the windows and let the air in. Heather stands alone in the galley, the door closing softly behind Marcus as he enters the cockpit. She stares at the handle, the lock symbol taunting her. The certainty she once held crumbles, replaced by a quiet reckoning. She'd questioned his place, never realizing he was the one guiding them all. The moment lingers, a silent shift in the air. The cabin falls silent, a collective inhale filling the space. Passengers lower their belongings, eyes lifting from screens and newspapers. A businessman folds his paper slowly, his gaze fixed on the front. A mother tightens her grip on her child's hand, the quiet tension palpable. Marcus's voice, calm and steady, breaks the hush. "Welcome aboard. I'm Captain Bell. We'll have you home on time." The words carry authority without arrogance, filling the cabin with a new energy. Heather grips a coffee pot, steam rising like a silent confession. Her hands tremble slightly as she pours, the liquid wavering in the cup. She glances around, catching the eyes of a few passengers who nod in quiet support. The truth settles over the cabin like a weight lifted and replaced. Passengers exchange looks, some with surprise, others with respect. The realization dawns slowly, a shared breath of acknowledgement. Heather's confidence unravels, her usual composure replaced by a fragile uncertainty. She steps back, avoiding Marcus's gaze, her role diminished in the face of his quiet command. A mother whispers to her, "Child, that's the pilot." The child's eyes widen, innocence meeting reality. Nearby, a young man leans forward, his expression thoughtful, the moment imprinting itself. The cabin hums softly, the engines a steady backdrop to the shift in atmosphere. Marcus moves with purpose, his presence a quiet earthquake shaking the foundations of old assumptions. Heather's colleague watches from a distance, her face a mask of conflicted emotions. She looks away, unwilling to confront the change unfolding before her. The moment lingers, a shared breath held between past and future, a silent reckoning in the air. The cabin hushes, waiting for the journey to begin anew. Marcus exits the cockpit, his pilot's stripes catching the light. Each step down the aisle is measured, deliberate, a silent assertion of authority. Passengers turn their heads, some startled, others nodding in quiet respect. A white man flinches, eyes narrowing, while a black teenager's face brightens with recognition. Heather retreats to the galley, her reflection fractured in the stainless steel panel. Her hands tremble slightly as she steadies herself against the counter. The weight of the moment presses down, her confidence unraveling in the face of Marcus's calm command. Marcus pauses briefly, offering a nod to a flight attendant who meets his gaze with a hesitant smile. The aisle feels charged, a quiet earthquake, shaking the foundations of old assumptions. Passengers whisper among themselves, the air thick with unspoken acknowledgement. A young mother clutches her child, her eyes wide with surprise and hope. An elderly man adjusts his glasses, watching Marcus with a mixture of admiration and regret. The cabin hums softly, the engines a steady backdrop to this subtle revolution. Heather's colleague watches from a distance, her expression conflicted. She bites her lip, torn between loyalty and the undeniable shift in power. The routine is broken, replaced by a new order that demands recognition. Marcus's presence is a beacon, a quiet declaration that authority is not bound by skin color. His every step speaks volumes, rewriting the narrative without a word raised. The aisle walk is more than movement. It is a statement, a reclaiming of space long denied. The cabin holds its breath, the moment suspended between past prejudice and future promise. Marcus reaches his seat, settling in with a calm that commands respect. The journey continues, but the story has already changed. Heather grips the handle of the coffee pot, her knuckles paling as she pours into a passenger's cup. The liquid wobbles, splashing over the rim and pooling on the tray. She fumbles for a napkin, dabbing at the spill, her hands unsteady. A colleague glances over, eyebrows raised but says nothing, just quietly rearranges the sugar packets, pretending not to notice. Heather forces a smile, her cheeks flushed. She glances toward the front, where Marcus stands, speaking softly with a passenger. His tone is even, his posture relaxed. Heather's heart pounds, her sense of control slipping further with every second. She wipes the tray again, the stain spreading, refusing to disappear. A passenger offers a polite, "Thank you," but Heather barely hears it. Her mind races back to the gate, to the moment she questioned Marcus's ticket. The memory burns, a sharp ache she can't shake. She sets the coffee pot down too quickly, the clatter louder than she intended. The cabin's usual rhythm is gone, replaced by a taut, uneasy quiet. Marcus passes by, pausing just long enough to nod. "Everything all right?" he asks, voice gentle, but firm. Heather's response is barely a whisper. "Yes, Captain." The title catches in her throat, unfamiliar and heavy. He moves on, his calm presence a stark contrast to her unraveling composure. Heather's colleague approaches, offering a clean napkin, her eyes searching Heather's face for answers she can't give. Heather takes it, hands trembling, and forces another smile. The coffee stain remains, a visible mark of her faltering confidence. She busies herself with refilling cups, but her mind is elsewhere, caught in the aftermath of her own doubt. Each small mistake feels magnified, every gesture a reminder of the shift she cannot control. "That's him?" a woman whispers, cheeks flushed as she leans toward her husband. He glances at Marcus, then back at his wife, murmuring, "Just let it go." The words hang in the air, heavy and unresolved. A teenager snaps a quick photo, grinning as he types out a caption. "Black Excellence, Captain in the cockpit." The image is shared before the flight has even leveled off. A man in the aisle seat shifts uncomfortably, eyes darting from Marcus to Heather and back again. He clears his throat, then looks away, pretending to study the in-flight magazine. Another passenger, a middle-aged woman in a red scarf, catches Marcus's eye and offers a small, apologetic nod. He returns it, his expression calm, refusing to shrink under the scrutiny. Heather moves down the aisle, tray in hand, her steps uncertain. She overhears a pair of businessmen whispering, "Did you see the look on her face?" She didn't. Expect that. Their voices are low, but the meaning is unmistakable. Heather's cheeks burn, her confidence slipping further with every overheard word. Marcus focuses on his flight plan, blocking out the noise. He senses the shift in the cabin, the awe, the discomfort, the quiet apologies that never quite reach. His hands are steady, his face composed, but inside he feels the ripple of shame moving through the rows. A flight attendant offers Marcus a glass of water, her hand trembling just slightly. "Thank you," he says, his voice gentle. She nods, grateful for the kindness. The cabin buzzes with whispers, some admiring, some uneasy. Marcus's presence is a silent reckoning, justice delivered without anger or spectacle. The shame is not his to carry, but it lingers, a lesson written in every glance and every hushed conversation. Marcus meets Heather's gaze, nods once. There's no hint of mockery, no anger, just a calm acknowledgement. Heather's eyes drop, vision blurring as she blinks back tears. His restraint is a force more powerful than any outburst, her own bias exposed by his unwavering grace. The shift in power is silent, but complete. The cabin is still, the low drone of the engines the only sound. Heather's lips part as if to speak, but nothing comes out. She swallows, shoulders folding inward, apron clutched tightly in her hands. Marcus's gaze remains steady, unflinching, needing no words to make his point. A flight attendant nearby watches, her face caught between admiration and discomfort. She glances away, fussing with a tray, not wanting to intrude on the moment. Across the aisle, a passenger nods at Marcus, a subtle gesture of respect. Another passenger looks away, cheeks tinged with shame. Marcus's nod is more than a gesture. It's a statement, a silent promise that dignity will not be surrendered, that respect is not up for debate. The old order fractures, and everyone feels it. The subtle shift in the air, the realization that something fundamental has changed. Heather steps back, conceding space, her confidence unraveling. She wipes her hands on her apron, breath-catching, as she tries to steady herself. The lesson is clear, etched deep by the quiet power of Marcus's presence. Outside, the plane rolls forward. Inside, a quiet revolution unfolds, carried on the strength of a single nod. Marcus settles into his seat, the gravity of the moment grounding him. The cabin's energy shifts, hope threading through the rows. The engines rise to full power, and the journey continues. Heather's gaze lingers on the cockpit door, understanding that the real journey ahead is within herself. The nod echoes in the stillness, a quiet victory for dignity, a turning point for everyone who witnessed it. Marcus steps into the cockpit, the door closing behind him with a soft, definitive click. The lock's cold metal gleams, a barrier and a gateway all at once. Heather stands just outside, her eyes fixed on the handle, the weight of the moment pressing down. Inside, Marcus checks the instruments with practiced ease, his hands steady, his focus absolute. The cockpit is a sanctuary of control, a place where his competence is unquestioned. Outside, Heather's role feels diminished, her presence shrinking in the shadow of his authority. She takes a slow breath, the hum of the engines a distant murmur. The door between them is more than wood and metal. It's a symbol of the divide that has long separated expectation from reality. Marcus's uniform, his calm, his command, all stand as a quiet rebuke to the doubts she once harbored. Heather's fingers twitch, brushing the edge of the door, a silent gesture of both respect and resignation. The lock clicks again as Marcus secures it, the sound echoing in the stillness. A flight attendant passes by, casting a glance at Heather. Her expression, a mix of sympathy and understanding. Heather nods slightly, acknowledging the unspoken solidarity. The cabin beyond the door is alive with quiet anticipation, passengers unaware of the subtle revolution unfolding just steps away. Marcus's presence in the cockpit is a beacon, a testament to resilience and dignity. Heather steps back, the space between them now a chasm bridged only by the truth Marcus embodies. The door closes fully, the barrier now a gateway to change. The moment lingers, heavy with promise and the slow, steady march toward justice. "Prepare for takeoff," Marcus announces over the intercom, his voice steady and assured. Heather moves down the aisle, checking seatbelts and tray tables with practiced hands. Passengers respond automatically, but the routine feels different. Every gesture, every click of a buckle, carries the weight of what's just unfolded. A passenger in 3C reaches out, touching Heather's arm gently. "Thank you," she says, her voice soft but clear. Heather hesitates, unsure if the gratitude is meant for her, for Marcus, or for something larger. She nods, unable to find the right words. The ambiguity settles in her chest, a mix of relief and ache. Heather continues her checks, her footsteps quieter than usual. She glances toward the front of the cabin, catching a glimpse of Marcus in the cockpit, his focus unwavering. The sight is grounding, a reminder that authority can look different than she once believed. A young man lowers his tray, pausing to watch Heather as she passes. Their eyes meet for a moment, and he offers a nod of understanding. The exchange is brief but meaningful, a silent acknowledgement of the change rippling through the cabin. The engines build to a low roar, the plane shuddering as it begins to move. Heather steadies herself, gripping the back of a seat. The familiar motions of her job now feel like small acts of reparation, each one a step towards something better. As she returns to her station, Heather exhales slowly, her shoulders relaxing, for the first time all day. The routine is unchanged, but its meaning is transformed. Justice, she realizes, isn't always loud. Sometimes it's found in the quiet repetition of doing the right thing, even when it's hard. The cabin settles, the tension easing as the plane lifts into the sky. Heather closes her eyes for a moment, letting the new reality take hold. A future shaped by dignity, respect, and the steady work of change. The plane rises, engines humming as clouds drift past the windows. Passengers adjust their seats, some watching the sky, others lost in thought. Heather steadies herself by the galley, her grip tight on the counter. The altitude brings a hush, every sound sharper, every glance more meaningful. Marcus's voice comes over the intercom, calm and steady. "We're at cruising altitude now. Smooth air ahead." His words settle the cabin, a quiet reassurance that things are under control. Passengers relax, the earlier tension fading into the background. Sunlight pours through the windows, casting long beams across the aisle. Heather watches dust swirl in the light, her thoughts tangled. The old certainty she carried feels far away now, replaced by something raw and unfamiliar. She catches her reflection in the glass, shoulders tense, eyes searching. A passenger in the aisle seat offers her a small, understanding smile. Heather nods back, the gesture awkward but sincere. She glances toward the cockpit where Marcus sits, in command, his presence a steady anchor for everyone on board. The clouds outside are thick, but inside, the air feels lighter. The shift is subtle but real, a new order taking shape, built on respect rather than routine. Heather breathes out, her chest loosening as the weight of old habits begins to lift. A child laughs, the sound bright and hopeful. Marcus walks the aisle, pausing to greet passengers, his calm unshaken. Heather watches, realizing that the view from above changes everything. The higher they go, the more the past falls away. The plane glides forward, sunlight warming the cabin. Heather closes her eyes, letting herself believe that change is possible, even here, even now. The truth is clear in the clouds. The journey isn't just about distance, but about becoming something better. Heather moves quietly down the aisle, coffee pot in hand, her smile thinner than before. Passengers approach Marcus, their words hesitant, voices low. A white man stops by his seat, clearing his throat. "Didn't realize. Sorry about earlier." Marcus nods, his response measured. "Thank you." He doesn't linger on the apology, accepting it without letting it define him. A young woman offers a shy smile as she hands Marcus her empty cup. "You're an inspiration," she says softly. Marcus gives a gentle nod, gratitude flickering in his eyes. The air is thick with unspoken regret, every gesture a step towards something new. Heather overhears the exchanges, her hands trembling as she pours coffee into a paper cup. A passenger in the window seat watches her, his gaze steady but kind. "People can change," he murmurs, almost to himself. Heather nods, unsure if the comment is meant for her or for Marcus. Her colleague in the galley catches her eye, offering a brief, supportive nod. It's a small gesture, but it helps. The usual routine is quieter now. The clatter of cups, the rustle of newspapers, the soft hum of the engines, all underscored by a sense of uneasy reconciliation. Marcus sits back, eyes closed, letting the moment settle. He feels the weight of the day, but also the hope in these small acknowledgments. A child 2 rows back claps softly, drawing a smile from Marcus and a few others nearby. Heather pauses at the end of the aisle, looking out the window at the sunlit clouds. Her reflection is fractured in the glass, a reminder of the changes within her. She breathes deeply, accepting that the journey forward is different now. The cabin settles into a gentle rhythm, the tension easing but the lessons lingering. Apologies fill the aisles, not as an end, but as a beginning. A memo titled Inclusive Practices hangs on the crew lounge bulletin board, fluttering slightly in the breeze from the air conditioner. Heather glances at it, her eyes scanning the bold letters, but her expression unreadable. New hires gather, nearby, whispering excitedly about the changes, their faces bright with hope and determination. Meanwhile, veteran crew members exchange weary looks, some rolling their eyes, others shaking their heads in quiet resignation. The paper flaps softly, a symbol of change both embraced and resisted. Heather's gaze lingers on the memo, the weight of the words settling in her chest. She folds her arms, the fabric of her uniform creasing under the tension. Around her, conversations buzz with a mix of anticipation and skepticism. A young flight attendant approaches Heather, offering a tentative smile. "Looks like things are finally shifting," she says softly. Heather nods, her lips pressed into a thin line. "It's about time," she replies, voice low but steady. The memo represents more than new rules. It's a challenge to old habits and unspoken biases. Heather feels the pressure of the past colliding with the promise of the future. The room hums with the quiet energy of transformation, the air thick with unspoken questions and fragile hopes. Outside the lounge, the terminal buzzes with activity, oblivious to the subtle revolution unfolding within. Heather takes a deep breath, the sound steadying her. The memo flutters again, a silent witness to the slow, steady march toward justice and inclusion. The moment is heavy with possibility and the weight of history, a reminder that change is never easy, but always necessary. Marcus stands by the terminal window, watching a jet ascend into the blue. The glass is cool beneath his hand, grounding him as he reads Naomi's text. "Proud of you. Always." He smiles, for the tension of the day easing from his shoulders, replaced by a quiet sense of accomplishment. Below, a crew prepares another flight. Marcus notices the mix of faces, black, brown, white moving together with practiced efficiency. A young pilot in a fresh uniform laughs with a baggage handler, their camaraderie effortless. Marcus sees himself in their ambition, their hope. Each uniform is a small victory, proof that progress is possible. A child presses her face to the glass beside him, eyes wide with wonder as she traces the path of a departing plane. Marcus kneels, meeting her gaze. "You want to fly one day?" She nods, shy but excited. "You can," he tells her, his voice gentle but certain. The girl's mother smiles, gratitude shining in her eyes. Marcus stands, watching the horizon. The sky feels closer, the future brighter. He thinks of every moment he was doubted, every time he had to prove he belonged. Now, the weight is lighter. His work, his patience, his dignity. They've made a difference, not just for him, but for those who follow. He glances at his reflection, seeing both the man he is and the boy he once was. The journey isn't over, but the view is changing. The promise of what's next is written in the contrails above and in the determined faces below. Marcus takes a deep breath, hoping to fill his chest. The runway stretches ahead, wide and open. He turns, ready for whatever comes, knowing he's not alone on this path. Heather sits alone in the crew lounge, the glow of her phone casting shadows across her face. Headlines scream, "Pilot prejudice goes viral." Notifications flood in, some sympathetic, others harsh. Her fingers tremble as she scrolls, the weight of exposure pressing down. Colleagues pass by, their eyes avoiding hers. Whispers ripple through the room, a mix of judgment and pity. Heather closes the app, the screen darkening, but the feeling lingering. She sets the phone down, the silence around her thick and heavy. The camaraderie she once knew feels fractured, replaced by distance and doubt. The viral story has shattered the routine, exposing cracks in the facade. A fellow attendant pauses, offering a tentative nod of support. Heather returns it, grateful but guarded. The room hums with quiet tension, the air charged with unspoken questions. Outside, the terminal bustles, oblivious to the storm inside. Heather's reflection in the window is fragmented, a visual echo of her fractured confidence. She breathes deeply, steadying herself against the tide of change. The moment is a crossroads, a silent reckoning with the consequences of bias and the cost of awakening. Heather knows the path ahead is uncertain, but the truth can no longer be ignored. The crew lounge feels colder, the shadows longer. Heather's isolation is both punishment and a chance for reflection. The story has moved beyond the cabin, touching lives and challenging old narratives. She looks up as a new crew member enters, their eyes bright with hope. Heather offers a small, weary smile, a fragile bridge between past and future. The screen lights up again, a new message arriving. Heather's fingers hover, then she swipes it away. Change is coming, slow but inevitable. The quiet after the storm is a promise, fragile but real. Her breath catches as she recalls the moments before the flight, the tension thick in the air. She remembers the faces, the silent judgments, the weight of unspoken expectations. Each notification on her phone is a reminder of the cost of bias, the price of awakening. She knows the road ahead is long, but the first steps have been taken. The quiet in the room deepens, a space for reflection and resolve. Heather's eyes close briefly, gathering strength. The future is uncertain, but the moment is hers to own. The training room buzzes with quiet energy as a video flickers to life on the screen. Diverse pilots greet the new recruits, their faces a mosaic of backgrounds and stories. Marcus appears briefly, his calm authority shining through the frame, a symbol of progress and resilience. Heather sits in the back row, arms crossed, her expression unreadable. The video plays on, showcasing new policies and inclusive practices. The room is filled with eager faces, some nodding in agreement, others skeptical but attentive. A young recruit leans toward a colleague, whispering, "Looks like things are finally changing." The colleague smiles, eyes bright with hope. Heather shifts uncomfortably, the weight of the past pressing against the promise of the future. The video ends with a call to action. We are the future of aviation. Together, we rise. Applause breaks out, tentative but genuine. Heather stands slowly, her posture stiff. She slips out before the discussion begins, the chill of obsolescence settling in her bones. Outside, the terminal hums with life. Heather's footsteps echo down the corridor, a solitary rhythm against the backdrop of change. The screen fades to black, the message clear. Progress is underway, but the journey is far from over. The moment is a quiet victory, a step toward dismantling old barriers and building new bridges. The faces on the screen are more than pilots, they are pioneers, carrying the weight of history and the hope of tomorrow. The future is unfolding, one story at a time. Heather stands in line at a crowded coffee shop, her uniform jacket draped over one arm. The bell above the door jingles as more customers enter, the hum of conversation filling the space. She glances at her phone, trying to disappear into the background. A woman at a nearby table looks up, recognition flickering across her face. "Weren't you on that flight?" the woman asks, voice soft but clear. The question hangs in the air, drawing the attention of a few others nearby. Heather's cheeks flush. She fumbles with her wallet, dropping a few coins on the counter. The barista offers a sympathetic half-smile, sliding her coffee across with a quiet, "Have a good day." Heather mumbles a thank you, eyes fixed on the floor. The woman at the table doesn't press, but her gaze lingers, heavy with unspoken questions. Heather grabs her cup, the warmth barely cutting through the chill settling in her chest. She heads for the door, the bell jingling again as she steps outside. The cold air bites at her cheeks, sharper than she remembers. She pulls her jacket tighter, glancing over her shoulder at the window. Inside, the woman is still watching, her expression unreadable. Heather's steps quicken, the weight of that glance following her down the street. Each footfall is a reminder that her actions are no longer invisible, that the world is watching and remembering. The lesson lingers, more lasting than pride or routine. She pauses at the corner, sipping her coffee, letting the moment sink in. The city moves around her, indifferent and unstoppable. Heather exhales, her breath a small cloud in the morning air. The recognition stings, but it's also a chance to start again. The company email pings on Heather's phone as she sits alone. In the break room, the subject line reads, "Congratulations to our new captains." She opens the message, scrolling through the list. Marcus Bell's name appears at the top, bold and unmistakable. Below him, a wave of new names, pilots of color, women, faces she's seen in training videos and passing in the halls. Heather's own name is missing. She scrolls again, slower this time, but it isn't there. Her hand tightens around the phone, knuckles paling. Across the room, a group of junior staff gather around a printout, excitement in their voices as they read the promotions aloud. 60% of the new captains are people of color, one says, pride clear in her tone. Heather watches them, a strange mix of envy and resignation settling in her chest. She remembers the old days, the familiar faces, the certainty of her place in the system. Now, the rules have changed. The list is a symbol. Progress isn't personal, it's collective, and she's no longer at the center. She crumples the email, then smooths it out, staring at the bolded diversity stats. The words blur for a moment before she blinks them clear. The break room feels smaller, the air heavier, as if the walls themselves are closing in on the old order. A colleague enters, offering a quiet nod of acknowledgement. Heather returns it, managing a thin smile. The moment is bittersweet, a door closing for her, but opening wide for so many others. She sets her phone down, letting the reality settle. The cockpit, once a closed circle, is being redefined, and she is left to reckon with the cost of standing still. Marcus adjusts his cap, the weight of the moment settling on his shoulders. He leads a new crew through the boarding process, their faces a mix of determination and hope. Heather watches from the economy section, her wings clipped, her presence diminished. The engines hum softly as the plane taxis, the runway lights, stretching ahead like a path to a new horizon. Passengers settle into their seats, the cabin alive with quiet anticipation. Marcus's voice comes over the intercom, calm and steady. "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is your captain speaking. We are ready for departure and expect a smooth flight. Thank you for choosing to fly with us." Heather's gaze lingers. On the fuselage, sunlight glinting off the polished surface. The plane lifts, a bird unburdened, carrying futures she'll never touch. The sky at last belongs to everyone. A young flight attendant smiles at Marcus, her eyes bright with pride. A passenger nearby nods in approval, the air thick with unspoken acknowledgement. The routine is transformed, each gesture a step toward justice and inclusion. Heather exhales slowly, the tension easing from her shoulders. The journey continues, marked by quiet victories and the steady work of change. The cabin settles into a calm rhythm, the hum of the engines a steady heartbeat. The plane climbs higher, the clouds parting to reveal endless blue. Marcus's presence fills the cockpit, a beacon of resilience and dignity. The system soars ahead, propelled by those who refuse to be grounded. The moment is a quiet triumph, a testament to progress and the power of perseverance. The future is wide open, waiting to be claimed. Heather reflects on the journey, the battles, fought in silence, and the victories won without fanfare. The faces of those who came before Marcus flash through her mind, their struggles etched in history. She feels a shift within herself, a reluctant acceptance of change. Outside, the sun dips lower, casting long shadows across the runway. The plane ascends steadily, breaking through layers of clouds, symbolizing the breaking of barriers.